So we work with a lot of tools in robotics. Like we work with aluminum, we work with plywood, we work with a lot of different materials that require power tools especially. And so it's very important to understand how all that works. That way we can be safe with power tools and be able to be responsible with them. We'll also go over things such as best practices and also just being safe at competition, being safe in the workplace, and how we can be aware of what each other are doing. So we'll start off with competition, what you'll experience in competition, and especially the safety practices we go over at competition. So in the case that a bad disaster happens at competition, there's a lot of teams, there's a big pit area, there's a big competition area, and so it's usually a pretty big venue. So like for instance, in the event of a fire, usually we'll have your team will be briefed on exits for fire drills and things like that, or for emergency fire exits. So we'll want to go over that, familiarize ourselves with that. That way we know where we can meet. It's usually in parking garages. It may differ depending on venues, but we'll generally agree on a common spot to meet in the case of an emergency such as a fire. So like across the street would also be another place that we might agree upon as a common meeting spot. So like this mentions like always paying attention to exits. We also should know where the fire extinguishers are in our pits, and also just kind of also making mental notes of in the venue where the different fire extinguishers are. So in the case of tornado, usually venues will have certain designated areas that are safe for tornadoes. Those are usually bathrooms, ground floors, so like away from windows and doors, for instance, or they might have certain rooms that are dedicated as like heavy storm shelters. So we'll also be aware of that. So in the case that we have lockdowns / active shooters or really bad scenarios like that, usually you'll be directed, these venue officials are going to be trained in that scenario, and so your best bet is really just to listen to them and listen to their announcements like it says here. A lot of our communications and those things will likely be over Discords. That's where most of the chat will be happening in one of those emergencies. So, of course, it says fight if needed. Yes, if you come in the case where you need to fight for your life.
Grab the nearest hard object and just give it them.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we're not going to tell you to stand down and just try to hide. If somebody comes at you and you need to fight, do your best to fight. So, if exiting the building is necessary, stay in or nearby team fire meeting points. So it comes back to those meeting points as well. We really do want to make sure we have a common meeting spot. So that's something we will go over at each competition. So, like, of course, the last note here is to do what you need to be safe. Like, parents, mentors are all valid contacts to get a hold of in one of these emergencies. So, yeah, make sure you're definitely in communication with them if you're separated from the rest of the team. So, yeah, so of course, if an emergency happens, everybody's gonna get notified, including parents, including mentors, and really everybody. Those are serious situations that we'll be considering. Alrighty, now for shop safety. So, attire. So we'll start out, of course, with closed-toed shoes. When I say closed-toed shoes, we mean not sandals, not things that have holes in them. So like we can't be wearing flip-flops, we can't be wearing sandals, Crocs in here. Preferably you want shoes that are completely enclosed, closed-toed. Even better if they're like steel-toed, that's a bonus, because last thing you want is something heavy like this falling on your foot. I don't think anybody likes that, so that's a requirement. Another big requirement is long pants. Do not want shorts, because if something comes at you, hits you in the shin. While it might still hurt, you'll be a lot less likely to get cut or splashed if you are wearing jeans, khakis, whichever. Just don't be wearing, especially during build season. Don't be wearing shorts and things like that. We're here. And another thing I want to add on to that is preferably try not to wear super duper baggy pants and things like that, because those can get snagged in equipment. And that's something that we would like to work with better this year, is trying to make sure we don't have really floppy clothing on that can get snagged in things. So yeah, that's another safety tag on there. Safety glasses, of course. Right now we're a little short on safety glasses, so we're going to hope to get some more safety glasses before the actual beginning build season of the year. But during build season, we really do have a rule where you're in the build space, you need to have safety glasses on.
They have some extras. I don't know what quality do you need.
What quality? I'm not sure if we have a certain quality that we need.
I got some for a homeschool group for science one year, and I have some left. So if you want, I can bring them.
They'll likely work. I mean, we just need when we say safety glasses, we need glasses that can just protect debris from flying at your eyes. Like if, for instance, we're cutting metal shavings and those are coming at your eye, last thing you want to do is get a piece of aluminum in your eye, and that's not fun. Aluminum splinters are not fun at all. So let alone getting into your eye is not fun. And things that might fly, like we've cut things and the metal parts might go flying across the room, and last thing you want is lodged in your eye or on your cheek. Like that's not ideal. So that's kind of what we want safety glasses for. All right. So earplugs. This is something if you are really want to protect your ears and things like that, it is a good idea to bring earplugs, because we do work with some loud machinery in here, and it can, let's just say a lot of it gets above a healthy decibel range for your ears. So some of us decide not to. That's up to you, but we will advise and say earplugs are definitely healthier for your ears if you come in with those. Yeah, like it says, highly recommended at competitions, and the reason is because they blast music at competitions. Like regionals, if you've never been to a regional, you go there and be like, oh wow, this is loud, this is concert loud. And then if you go to a world competition, for instance, then it's gonna be like 15 times louder, and then you're gonna have tinnitus by the time you're back from competition. So that's why we recommend earplugs. So, all right, face shields if applicable. I'm not sure why that's on there.
We have them because if you're using a grinder, it'll spray stuff in your face.
Okay,
It's
all right.
not a safe technology.
Yeah, I guess for certain pieces of equipment, face shields are good. Like Susie mentioned, grinders. If there's constant sparks flying at you, you need something to deflect that debris. So yeah, face shields are handy. Like I said earlier, hanging loose accessories, clothes, any baggy clothes, or wallet hanging off, or a lanyard hanging off your neck, we heavily advise and really would say just don't bring into the build space. If you are, they need to be stashed in a corner somewhere where they're not going to get tangled up in something, because there is a lot of things that will want to pull your head very close to sharp equipment. So yeah, don't give it an excuse to cut you in half. So yeah, so like for instance, jewelry, sweatshirt strings, PJ pants, necklaces, this is tuck-in shirt here. That's always a good practice. Yeah, wired earbuds as well. So like if you're gonna bring earbuds in, we'd always recommend having wireless earbuds in that case. Even then, for safety reasons, I would advise personally to, if you have earbuds in, make sure one's always out, because then you can hear other people in the room. Because last thing we want is something somebody's starting to saw something, and somebody has their earbuds, they're completely oblivious to what's going on. So that's the extra advisory there. Long hair should be tied back. If it goes below the shoulders, it needs to be tied up. It just needs to be tied up. Because, again, it can get snagged. Just about anything that can get snagged is probably almost doomed to get snagged at some point. So, yes. Alrighty. So, we're going to have policies in place as to how students are going to be handling different types of power tools. So, for instance, general power tools such as drills, is there any other power tools, like do grinders count as general power tools then? No, okay. Primarily drills. 7th and 8th graders need to have mentor supervision. We'll usually have mentor assistance with the older students as well. But we might become a little more lenient as time goes on because we can trust them with that. But we're going to have that hard rule where 7th and 8th graders need to always be accompanied by a mentor when using a power tool. So as for the equipment that should always have mentor supervision, that'll be this list right here. So CNC routers, saws, pneumatic riveters, aluminum bending, soldering irons, Dremels, 3D printers, and drill presses. Those need to have mentor supervision always. Doesn't matter what age, what grade you're in. Yeah, you always need to have a mentor accompanying you on that. Alrighty, and then finally for this slide, we'll go over robot safety. So, as a regulation of FIRST, every robot must have what's called a robot safety light. It is this orange light, and I don't know if anybody can see it on the robots behind, but there's a light there that, oh yeah, Susie got me one right here, this light. This light is required to be on every single robot. And so when it is turned on, when it has power, it will always be solid. So because it's solid does not mean it's actually gonna run you over or anything. When it's solid, it means that it has power. That's all it means. Now, if it is flashing, that means the robot is enabled. That means it can be controlled either by joysticks or it can run an automatic routine and potentially run you over. So, what we're generally going to say is that if it is solid, then you should be safe to move around the robot. Of course, you do not want to really touch any electronics when the robot is on, unless you know what you're doing. So we heavily advise against that. But when the orange light is blinking, when it is active, we essentially, unless there is somebody else who's coordinating with the driver as to working with the robot up close while it's active, nobody should be even anywhere near the robot when the light is blinking. That is extremely important safety rule. So usually when somebody enables the robot, they'll yell enable before they start it, and it'll start blinking. And the only reason that somebody goes up and starts working on the robot while it's blinking is if they need to feed it a game piece, or they need to inspect something up close while it's in operation, and they will have constant communication, like I said, with the driver, back and forth. So, rundown is solid orange is fine. Blinking orange, run away. So, hopefully that all makes sense. That is kind of a rundown is what we would see in competition and safety in the workshop. So, yeah, I'll pass it on to whoever's next.
This is a battery. Our robots run off of batteries. They don't get plugged into the wall. So whenever we need to turn on the robot, we have to first put a battery in the robot and then turn it on. batteries are kind of dangerous. They are filled with acid, so we have things called battery spill kits, and these are here just in case the battery spills, because the batteries are plastic and they have a seam right here that if you pick up the wrong way, enough ways, like pick it up this way enough, don't do that too much, I'm used to these, but anyways, if you pick it up too much like that, the battery will literally split open and acid will just kind of be touching you then. So battery spill kits include gloves, water, paper towels, trash bags, and baking soda. The baking soda is really important because you pour that over the acid and it neutralizes the acid. So if the battery ever spills, first off, always tell someone, especially mentors, and second off, get the battery spill kit, pour some baking soda over top of the battery and the acid. So that's the safety behind batteries. We always want to hold the batteries with 2 hands. The only time you're not holding the battery with 2 hands is when you're actively putting it in the robot or like picking it up from a really awkward position. So like our robot this year, we have to kind of lay the battery in our palm and then put it in the robot. That's an awkward position, but you should only be using that awkward position when you're putting it in the robot. So 2 hands. What else? Also, competitions are usually held in a building with concrete floors. If you put our batteries on said concrete floors, it loses its charge and kind of ruins the internal resistance of the battery. So we have foam mats that we put on the ground. So just, if you have to put it down on the ground, put it on top of the foam mats and not concrete. In this room, it's not as important because I don't think it's concrete and it's carpet, but at competitions, that's important. So yeah, when we're getting batteries, we'll always say check with the beak, check the battery with the beak. This little gadget is called the beak. If you plug it into the battery, it will show you how much it's charged, the voltage of the battery at different levels, and the internal resistance. Internal resistance is an important number to know. Does it say on here? No, it doesn't. If it's, usually I like it to be over 0.18, and that's considered like a good battery. Usually, in a lot of things we'll say like 100%, that's charged. For these batteries, 130% is fully charged battery. We usually like it to be over 100%. Trust me, I don't like it that it says 130 instead of just flat 100, but that's what the batteries do. So, I don't know. When we're charging them, we charge them this little thing. It has lights on the front. We don't listen to the lights. They're sometimes wrong. But that's that little connector that we plug into the battery. Technically, these connectors can plug into themselves, and the batteries can plug into themselves. So, like, be careful what you're picking up and plugging into.
You don't want to cause an infinite power glitch like with those
Infinite power glitches are not good for the batteries. If batteries get plugged into themselves, it does not create more power. It actually ruins both batteries.
On top of ruining the battery, it actually causes it to eventually prepare for like leakage. So it could cause the battery to leak, and we don't want that. It ruins the batteries. It causes acid to go everywhere. It's just bad in general.
Yeah.
And you got to be really careful when plugging in batteries to make sure not to do that. We mark our chargers with yellow tape. So if it has yellow tape, that's a charger. Otherwise, it should be considered a battery, usually.
Also, if the lead is connected to the battery, it's battery. Speaking of leads, this thing right here, the wires and the pluggy thing, it's called a lead. We don't pick the batteries up by the leads because it's a wire crimped into like little loop thing that gets bolted to the battery. It's not strong. It will like fall out, and then I have to replace it, which isn't fun either.
This is a partially broken lead. The wire is starting to come out of it. This is what happens like when they get old or when you carry it by the leads, and it's just bad because it comes out and you gotta replace it.
The forbidden
So
Twizzlers.
whenever, like, sometimes you might see other teams like carrying the rope battery by the leads. Anyone who like knows how to handle batteries will be cringing at that because it's not good. These things are like 12 pounds. Carrying it by the wires is just not a good idea. So 2 hands and don't carry it by the leads.
The forbidden Twizzlers.
Is that all about batteries?
You can look at your presentation there on the back. I think there's more slides.
I feel like that's a lot. I said a lot about batteries. Oh yeah. When you turn on the beak, you have to press the button twice once you plug it into the battery, and this is the little screen that it'll show. So it'll say like the status of the battery. I don't usually look at that much. It says the charge. Apparently the battery was 101 when this picture was taken. And then it says different voltage levels and like how many amps it's putting out or something. And then the RIN is the internal resistance. And that one's a good one. It says 0.020. It says like 0.018, that's still a good battery. Anything below that is kind of like meh. I don't really like that. But
For matches, whenever we're using the robot where it like is really important, we always make sure the robot is above 105%.
yeah.
And it always like the internal resistance is always like above 0.018 and below like 0.025 or something.
Yeah.
Don't worry. As the build season goes on, you guys will get a better idea on how to read the battery and things like that.
And like during competition, we'll have like certain people that will be messing with batteries, and not everyone will be messing with batteries, but it's good to know some of this information, especially how to like hold a battery and
Just in case we tell you in a rush during eliminations, hey, go grab a battery.
yeah. In spill case scenarios, that's also good to know where the spill kit is and what is in the spill kit, and like I said, if a battery spills, the like number one thing to do is tell a mentor, tell everyone honestly that this battery just got spilled, and then pour the baking soda on top, and like the mentor will help you clean up and everything, and you don't want to hide the battery and be like, oh, this was spilled, let me just tuck it away. Yes.
Is that box supposed to seal the spill kit?
No, that's actually safety glasses. We have a little blue cooler that says battery spill kit all over it.
Oh,
5413 spill kit.
Yeah, so if a battery gets spilled, that's a spill kit, and it has baking soda and stuff. We used to have water, like a jug of water in it. That like got spilled and went bad in the thing. So we have to find water out of any that we were in, but water's kind of easy to find. But yeah, spill kit. What's our next topic?
The next topic. Let me pull that up. The site still.
It went bye-bye?
It went bye-bye.
General safety. Okay.
Okay.
Did they pick a team?
Water.
Let me get this back up, sorry.
Shame on you.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Okay. Onward with safety. General safety practices include being careful around rotating tools like drills and anything that spins even on the robot. We don't wear gloves with rotating tools because the glove could get stuck in the tool and then just kind of rip off, and your hand might get caught in it and go into the rotating tool as well, and that's not good. Wearing safety glasses at all times, especially in the build space. We don't have time during meetings to be like, oh hey, we're running this drill. Everyone grab safety glasses. So like when we get into the room, just grab some safety glasses. We're most likely during build season going to be using a tool at some point during the meeting. Closed-toed shoes are a must. You're probably not going to be in this room very much if you're wearing like flip-flops or Crocs or anything that isn't like tennis shoes, boots, anything with, you know, an enclosed toe box. No rings on your hands, especially if you're using tools. Like that's really dangerous. Bracelets. I'm not wearing this many bracelets during build season. And any loose jewelry, like necklaces that can be hanging down when you're lean over, anything like that.
That close hoodie straps. I've seen someone get their hoodie strap caught in a drill.
Yes, I've actually been told multiple times, like right before I turn on a drill or something, oh, tuck in those hoodie straps, because I forgot. So it's always good. If you ever see someone turning on anything and they don't have like something, they have something on this list or don't have something on this list, and like you think something's gonna be unsafe, it's always okay to just like remind people and be like, oh hey, that thing might not be the best idea to do. Like no one's gonna be mad at you for calling someone out like that. We're gonna be thanking you because we don't want things to happen. We don't want mistakes to be made that could cost people a finger or something. We always, so we have some hearing protection here, like big headphones and stuff. If you're like using the drill, we'll probably ask you to put it on if we remember. It's kind of up to you to remember hearing protection, but if you want it, we have it. And yeah, loose clothing, like if you have a hooded, like a zipper jacket, we'll probably at least ask you to like zip up the zipper jacket if you're gonna be using something, or just take it off completely. And hair, I'm like always in a hair tie here, so like.
Another thing that we had last year was that people were showing up in sweatpants. Do not show up in sweatpants here, because they will get torn, they burn very easily. And they don't, not only do they burn through, they burn to your skin. So don't wear sweatpants when you're soldering or when you're working with anything that could be hot or metal. So that loose clothing also applies to like stuff that can melt easily.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Noah, you can have fun with this one.
I actually do think that these are great tools. Show of hands, who calls this a chop saw? Yeah?
I just call it a saw.
Who calls it a miter saw? See? This could be called either. Realize it's backwards for you guys. Let me turn it around.
You can turn the whole table around.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what this is for?
Yeah, it's almost.
I see. I understand.
And if you want to bring it, have it closer, you're more than welcome to. That way everybody can see it.
Okay. So, the miter saw, the danger here is twofold. One is you don't want your hands anywhere where the blade can cut them. And the other danger is we don't want the thing that you're cutting to be flung off the saw at speed, okay? And the way that we do that, the way that we stay safe, there are guards, should be on the saw. There's a blade guard that retracts, right? And the other thing is we secure material down to the saw with our clamps. We keep our hands away from the blade at all times, and if you have to hold on to material, you hold on to it out here on the fence, away from where the blade is. You never put your hands down here near the blade, then right here. It even has, you guys can't see it, a little icon on it that says no touching on the part that's silver here, okay? So, for this saw, safety glasses, hearing protection, it should be unplugged when it's not in use. Mentor should verify that you have the stock firmly clamped in it and that nothing's going to happen. Stock should be pressed firmly against the back of the fence. And There shouldn't be anything that you're not cutting on the table. You shouldn't have a bunch of offcuts or pieces on it. This saw is primarily for cutting rectangular long goods. So things like this, aluminum. Anything that's circular especially is not going to fit securely against the saw, and we do want to avoid cutting things that might become flying objects with the saw. The circular saw, handheld circular saw, I don't know if we have one here. This is kind of the opposite thing, right? This is attached to the table. The handheld circular saw is something you hold in your hand, but a lot of the same rules apply. You need your material to be totally secure so that it doesn't move on you. You want to not turn on the saw until you're ready to cut, which means you have everything ready and lined up. And you want to allow the saw motor for all of these to come all the way up to speed before you start cutting the material. And you want to make sure that you're keeping your hands out of the path of the saw. This is especially true with like the circular saw, where it could go faster or slower, and you don't want to at any time have your hand anywhere where the saw goes faster than you expect, that it runs over your hand. Also with the circular saw, it's important that your hands are not underneath the material that you're cutting. The saw usually comes down through the material, and you don't want your hands to be there even though you can't see. So your hands should be on top of the material at all times. All of our saws should not be plugged in when they're not in use, and they should not be running or plugged in and you walk away. Unplug it, turn it off before you even walk away from them. This is the table saw.
It's called a table saw because it looks like a table.
Yes, thank you. This is for cutting large sheet goods. So it's not for cutting small things like this. It's for cutting big things like big piece of plywood.
Triangle.
This, you want to make sure that we have all of the guards on it before you use it. It currently does not have all the guards on it. This is a really dangerous one just because it's very easy for you to be pushing material and push your hand into the blade, especially if your hand slip or the material slip. So this one is really important to keep your hands away from the path of the blade and away from the sides of the blade. And what you always want to have with you when you're using the table saw is the push stick. Now, I know these are all tools that we said in the beginning should only be used with mentor supervision, so you might be thinking, why are we talking about them? We really want everyone to be aware of all the dangers that could happen in the build space, even if you're going to have mentor supervision for them. Even us mentors can do things wrong. I've cut myself in the build space before. And
we've had metal flying across the room on accident.
It's important that we all be aware of all the dangers in build space. You guys, hey, Samuel, can you bring over the bandsaw?
Bandsaw?
Just take it out of the device. There will be a stand for that. I know there's no stand for it, so it's currently not safe. You can tell them about that part as to why it's not currently safe.
Oh, that thing looks terrifying when it's not.
It is terrifying indeed.
We want you to have a healthy respect for all tools, but there's no reason to be scared of any
Right?
tool.
Why does it look like one of those jukebox things?
So this tool is for cutting smaller and more irregular pieces of metal. It has a rotating blade. These will spin when it's on, so we want to keep our hands away from the whole tool, basically. Again, the same rules apply. You want to have it unplugged and off when you're not using it. You want to make sure that you're ready for your cut before you turn it on. You want to let it get up to speed before you start cutting with it. And you want to keep your hands out of the path of the blade. This is another stationary tool, so that should be easy. I think we're good. Okay, I don't think I can have them bring the CNC machine over here.
Well, actually, it's on a table.
It's okay. So the CNC machine is our remotely controlled machine that cuts out shapes in sheet goods, right? And one of the big things we want to avoid with the CNC machine, obviously we don't want you to touch the spindle while it's running, but also we don't want to have a scenario where it breaks a piece of material off or it breaks the bit off, because they will go flying as well. The CNC machine has a big red button on it. It's called an E-stop. If anything goes wrong, we want you to push the E-stop, especially if you're the one running. It also has a remote control. The remote control has a stop button on it as well. The CNC machine is a really cool machine. If you're going to use it, we're going to teach you how to use all of its functions. But the basic way that we are safe with this machine is that we will have it do a test pass, so it makes the same motions that it will make when the spindle is running, but it will make them in the air over top of the piece. And that helps us verify that the cut is going to go where we expect it to go, right? We also do that to make sure that it doesn't travel too fast, which might break the bit. You want to make sure that the material you're cutting is very well secured down to the bed. The CNC machine does not know when the material moves, so we'll just keep cutting. If it moves and then gets thrown out of the machine, that would be bad. The CNC machine can take a long time to cut. It's tempting just to let it do its job because it does everything on its own for you, but it really needs someone to be there watching it at all times, because it could start making a cut that we don't want it to cut. Something that I've seen on another machine is during cut, a bit actually got so warm that it started to slide out of the collet. I'm using tool words, I'm sorry. But the bit started to slide down, and so the cut got deeper and deeper, and eventually the bit snapped off. Just in the middle of machining, everything else was going fine. So that's why you always need to be watching it. It does take water to cool it, so we want to make sure that it has water in it before it runs. Again, it's a machine that you should shut all the way down before you leave it unattended. And I added beware the bits are very sharp because I actually cut myself on one of the bits. The bits look like drill bits. Drill bits are not sharp on the sides. CNC machines bits are sharp on the sides as well as the bottom. Do you guys want me to do drill testing?
Also, one thing with the CNC is that if you're within like a 10-foot radius at least, it will spray aluminum like shards everywhere.
Hence,
So
safety glasses.
you need safety glasses around that machine. Yeah.
Do you want me to do drill press?
You can demonstrate if you want.
Drill press is way over there. So the drill press is a lot like all of our saws. You want to make sure that material is firmly clamped to it. It's very easy to think that you're just going to put some material down on it and drill a hole through it and you'll be done. But what happens a lot of times is if the drill bit binds, then it will try to twist that material around and it could hit you with the material. So you always need to make sure anything that you're drilling is clamped down firmly to the table so it can't move. You want to make sure that you've removed any extra debris off of the drill press. That especially goes for anything that gets set on top of it, because you don't want that to fall down on you while it's running. Yeah, don't try to hold onto the material with your bare hands, like I said. If you're using a drill bit that's much bigger than like 1/4 of an inch, you should really start with a smaller one and work your way up. It's very easy with a large bit to just get it stuck in the material. And then if you do get a drill bit stuck in the material, you'll see the bit stop and it will start to make a loud noise. You should shut it off immediately because it's hard on our belts and our motor. Battery drills?
Oh, I can do that. Okay. We have two types of drills. We have the impact and we have the normal drill. Impact, what's better for the impact?
Screws, wood.
It doesn't turn your hand as much when you're using it. This drill, you have to be careful and have a firm grip on it because when you're drilling in, it will like, if it catches on something, it'll turn really quickly, and that can like really jerk you around.
It can break your it can break your wrist. So beware of that.
When we're drilling out a piece, depends on what it is and like what's happening, but most of the time we want to drill straight down. Just try to like, yeah. Again, like sometimes we might, like in a rush of things, drill at a weird angle, but most of the time you want the drill bit to be at a 90-degree angle to the item you're drilling. This is usually what we're gonna pick a drill bit out of. And when we have drill bits in the drill bit, when we have drill bits in the drill, we're never gonna set the drill on the table like that, because if you just like accidentally bump it or something, the drill can lean forward and break the bit. So we're always gonna lay it on its side when it has a bit in it, and usually just lay it on its side is easier so it doesn't fall over or something. So yeah, just always lay a drill on its side. When you're drilling, be careful, especially with this drill. This is the drill you're going to use most of the time. That stop pressing the button when it catches, so it doesn't like whip you around. And sometimes you can like back it up and stuff. There's a little button slide thing right here that'll change the direction of the drill. So forget. Yeah. If the button is out this way, it's turning, I want to say turning forward, but I know that's wrong. Because I always think of it as forwards and backwards.
Yeah.
Because you're backing out of a thing when you're, so if it's pointing out this way on this side of the drill, I guess it would be the right side of the drill, then it's going backwards, and if it's the other way, it's going forwards. You can put it in the middle, and that stops it from pressing the drill completely. Sometimes I'll do that when we're like packing up. I'll do that and put it in the toolbox like that. Even though most people are allowed to use this tool, you still want to be safe around it. Like we've been saying a lot with these things, you want to be careful with your clothes and hair when using this. You're required to have your hair put up if your hair is long enough, have safety glasses on, have all the precautions when using this tool, because things can still happen. You don't want to place your hand near the bit or anywhere. Like if you have to hold a piece, you want to have it far away. Clamp it down if it's a small piece. And like Noah said earlier, you don't want to have your hands behind where you can't see them. You want to have your hands on top of the piece where you can see them if you have to be touching the piece. And yeah, make sure that you're actually going the direction you want to be going, because I for sure have tried to back out of a piece that I'm trying to drill into. So that's just not fun, because it's going to take a lot longer to drill through a piece if you're going backwards. But yeah, sometimes people will ask for the impact if we're, say, building field elements and we're just screwing in screws into wood. Impact is nice for that. But impact is the little small guy, and the drill is the big one. So yeah, that's drills. What's next? Rivet gun. Okay, so when we're talking about rivets, I don't have a rivet on me right now. But this is technically the rivet gun. It's a pneumatic tool, so that means it uses air and pressurized air to do the function that it's used for. It's kind of loud because it's air. There should be a bit of.
Where would that be?
There's just a bin with a bags in it on the shelves.
Somewhere, okay.
Yeah. So a rivet holds pieces together. There's a random. Oh, why? There's just a random pieces of metal that's riveted together we found. But
That looks like a weapon.
you know, everything's open if you try. Yeah, the rivets are these little circular things you see on here. He's trying to find rivets.
Go help the programmer find rivets.
Go help the programmer function.
Okay, we're switching to box. I'm so sorry.
So this is what it looks like when it's on the robot, already riveted. Yes, rivet is an item and a verb. And this
Very
is
confusing.
what a rivet looks like when it's not used. Should I go ahead and just rivet?
All rivets.
Okay. Samuel's gonna rivet.
So when you rivet, you want to make sure that you put it flush, completely flush and flat down.
There's a little like piece. I don't know what it's called. But it'll just go in the hole, long side out, and for this, I think it takes like 2 presses.
It can vary. Press it until it works.
Right.
This time it works first try.
Okay. So how a rivet works is it pulls this peg, and there's a ball. You can see a ball in the end. It pulls the ball towards the thing that you're trying to rivet it to, and that's how it stays in place. We only use rivets if we know we're not going to take the piece off of the robot. So it's like a permanent fixture on the robot after it's riveted. There are also these handheld riveters that we use. These are a little more.
These are for when we're at competition.
Yeah, we're not allowed to use the pneumatic riveter at competition. This takes longer and is physically harder to do.
This one is usually the one we use just because it's faster.
So for this one, you still want to have it perpendicular to the tool, and you'll hear a crack when it's ready to.
Why did you give this to me?
So you can look at it.
Do I hand it to now?
Let's see. Yes, you want to put the gun flat against the rivet. There is a loud noise when the rivet, like the rivet gun, is in use. Ooh, the quick connect. I love those things so much. So the fun thing about a pneumatic thingy we have is that it makes a nice sound when it releases.
Oh.
Now it doesn't make a fun sound when you put it back on because air escapes and it's annoying. Yeah, it's loud, but usually we're like, hey, loud noise, if we're gonna make a loud noise and then do the thing.
Those are some funny sounds.
When you're using it, you don't want to pull the trigger like halfway or anything. You want to pull it completely down. And there is a little offcut piece when we rivet. It's just what Samuel's doing. There's a tiny little piece that comes off of the rivet once we've riveted it down.
Don't just
and
leave
it's
them on
in
the
the cylinder of the rivet gun. You can either let it out like that or let it out like that. You want to get it out of the rivet gun before you start riveting another rivet, because it'll clog up the thing. So that's that. We do have 2 types of handheld rivet guns. There's this one that's just straight up and down, and then there's this one that is more annoying because it takes squeezing power instead of like pushing together. But it's fun because it spins and you can get several different angles with this one.
It's what we use when we don't have much time in competition.
Yeah, there's some interesting positions that we can get into with the robot. So this one helps us be able to get some weird positions. I think that's all about rivets and rivet guns. Soldering iron, Samuel,
We always make a mess during build season.
There's a lot of times you're gonna find there's a big mess and then we spend like 1 meeting to clean it all up.
I think we spent one.
It's alright.
He said, don't leave these on the ground, and then he dropped it on the ground.
It was a demonstration of what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a soldering iron. It gets very hot. Because it literally just melts metal. So you never want to hold it like this. I know that Google Images seems to think that it's a good idea to hold it like this.
But Google Images
It's
is
unplugged,
obviously
it's
an
not
idiot.
hot right now.
Obviously Google Images is an
It
idiot.
gets around 600 degrees Fahrenheit. You do not want to touch this. Minimum temperature.
So what he's talking about by touching this, it's the metal portion right here, because the soldering iron has this little plastic portion and then the metal portion. Everything that's metal gets hot, not just the tip. So you want to hold it by the little portion that looks like a hand grip thing. You hold it like this, not touching this part.
This is what soldering.
If you don't know,
This is the hot portion.
it stays fairly hot after you unplug it. So even after unplug it's fairly hot. You usually know by waving your hand above it or feeling heat around it. You don't ever want to touch it, ever, unless like you know that it's cold. This is called over here. This is soldering wire. So when you solder something together, you like get the two wires in a position where you're ready to solder, and then you kind of feed this what's called solder. It's basically metal, lead, a little bit of lead, a little bit of tin, metal on top, and it'll fuse the two wires together. Yeah. Don't really know.
Once you've done that, the wires are hot.
Basic.
Don't touch them.
Yeah, you definitely want to. You want to unplug it. This is the stand for it. So when you're done with it, like when you're done using it for that wire, you put it back in this to make sure that it's not on the table sitting around. Don't ever set it on top of the table.
When you plug it in, you should always have a mentor with you, like knowing that you're turning this on and plugging it in. It doesn't hurt to be like, hey, room of people, I'm turning this hot object on. It's heating up. Or like, even when you unplug it, say, hey, I just unplugged this, it's still warm. And leave it out, you can leave it out in this to cool off. You don't want to just put it right away in the drawer. Yeah.
Can I add something? See all those fire alarms around? There's one right there, there's one right there. We have soldered close to those fire alarms in the past. It releases, I don't want to say smoke, but it releases fumes. So if you are near a fire extinguisher or a fire alarm, it will go off and it will call the police or the fire department.
Oh, no.
And we will get on their nerves. We'll try to avoid that. So.
Yeah, I have one thing to ask. Isn't solder like not good necessarily when you're done touching solder, or isn't it good to wash your hands?
Yes. The short answer is yes. It's good to wash your hands once you're done handling solder. If you wear gloves,
If you're
that's
in the
also good.
position to, don't breathe in the the fumes that come off of the melted solder and all that good stuff.
Pretty sure we do use
What's up,
wet
Quinn?
solder.
Not Quinn, Emery.
I just wanted to add that Dale told me that if you put a dab of solder on at the end, then it will help the life of your solder.
Oh yeah, when you're finished soldering, you can cover the end of the soldering iron with solder, and it'll like protect it essentially.
You want to do a very small amount, not so there's a glob on the end, but just enough so that it's shiny, like really shiny. It will definitely help your tip from corroding, and that's something I had to learn hard way as well. But yeah, a lot of people recommend unleaded solder. It does not stick well. You need hotter temperatures to get to it. Our soldering irons aren't as good. We have it, we do not like it.
Oh, that's not.
The good stuff is leaded. I know it sounds bad, but it's leaded.
Leaded or unleaded?
It's not gasoline.
Sneak peek for the electrical lab, right?
Yeah. Don't touch like your mouth, your face with it, your hands when you're working with solder. You want to wash it first. Yeah.
This is the end of the slide, so we can talk about that.
So these are what's called alligator clips. They're used for prototyping. We never use them on the robot because they fall off. Red positive, black's negative, always. Never crisscross those. If someone sees those and does it wrong, because that's just a standard, then it could cause problems. When attaching these, you just pull back the cover a little bit. These cover's a little bit stiff, but push it back as far as it goes without shoving the wire. Then you squeeze at the very back. You can usually feel it until it opens, and then you have like a wire. Kind of. I'll demonstrate on 2 alligator clips. You kind of interlock them a little bit like that, and then you try to get the cover on top of this so that it covers it up and kind of seals off the connection. So this is what, if you're doing 2 alligator clips, never do that. It's just a demonstration. This is more accurate with wire. This is what we do it with. When you're attaching wire, you want to make sure you twist the wire. If it's straight, untwisted wire, twist it. Always twist to the right. That's a standard on our team. You twist to the left, it unbraids and could possibly break the strings of the wire off. When you're attaching alligator clips, you attach it face on, straight into the mouth, and then you try, if you can, to get the cover over, just like this. This keeps it from shorting. We figured that out.
So, side note about this method of prototyping. If you are prototyping an electrical system and you are using alligator clips to clip the wires together and stuff, if you know anything about wiring and voltages, you know that you don't want the positive and negative wires touching. Like touching in the sense metal inside the wire is touching. You want to what's known as insulating, which is either like wrapping it in electrical tape or doing something to make sure the 2 metal wires don't touch.
We attached alligator clips to a battery. We were testing something. We didn't seal it properly, so we melted the casing of the wire off, and this was only in the space of about a second. If we hadn't taken it off, it would have started a fire.
Hi, my name is Noah. It has been 7 years since I last started a fire using alligator clips.
Yeah. Anyways, so if the alligator clips, the alligator clips do have like a small insulating like.
You shouldn't trust it.
I don't trust it because you can like pull these back to show the metal, and if the metal touches, then that's bad. If you're gonna use these, like, we have an obscene amount of electrical tape. We do not care if you just wrap the electrical tape around it for even a small, like, test of LEDs. Yeah, that's part of the electrical side of things. Yes?
I just wanted to point out that I'm starting to regret that I had a bunch of alligator clips and the rubber covering was cumbersome, so I just clipped it all off of mine. So.
Wait.
Electrical fires are not fun. They're hard to like put out, and fire is dangerous. So, yay. My brother actually, when that fire happened, he was the one that clipped it together, and he was the one that ran towards the fire and took with his bare hands. By the way, not like a good idea. Just like ripped the claw clips off of the battery, like off of its power source.
Hey, we didn't want to be responsible for fire.
It's better than what I did, which is essentially just like kind of try to get away from the fire. I mean, you're saving yourself, but you're also not turning the fire off. Anyways, be careful and don't get hurt. That's kind of what this presentation is about.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Alright, the last slide. Oh, wait, no,
That was the last slide. The soldering iron was the last slide. But yeah, kind of to wrap it up, don't wear baggy clothes and like be smart.
If you're stupid, then you die.
We don't die here. You might just be slightly named if you don't.
And cut.
Burnt, cut, sliced, mauled. That's what we're doing.
Well, we're a robotics team. We use power tools and stuff, so we try to be careful. If you're not careful, things
Shame on you.
happen.
Very big boo-boos, let's just say.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Should probably stop the video before I say anything else.